Okay, so the first foot that we're going to put in front of the other is, again, defining our targets and gathering information. The purpose here is that we need to be able to define the aim of the penetration test before we actually implement it. This is going to actually move us in the right direction as we perform the pen test. Now, there's several different ways that we can accomplish this. The first thing that we could start off with is taking a look at the robot.txt files. Oh, see, I even made a mistake. It's robots. Make sure it's plural, .txt file. Again, this is the file that Google looks at on each site to see what's allowed and what's not allowed to be crawled by their services. And I'm going to reiterate this just like I have in every module in this course so far, and that is, if you're not familiar with these terms, you've got to go back and take a look at the full course that focuses in on that domain. The next thing we'd want to do is go and do the standard search engine reconnaissance. We can use the site colon in our search, which we all learned about in the Google hacking module, as well as take advantage of the cached link that Google typically shows us, or most engines will show us. We'll also want to take a look at any, or try to identify, I should say, any entry points that the application creates. And this is going to be given to us by cookie information typically, as well as possibly also some of our error pages that show up, or the status pages, the 404, the 500, even the 300 error pages. And we can use tools like burp proxy or the OWASP Zap utility. Next on our list is to actually take a close look at the web server and try to identify the web applications that are running on it. We've identified the target, but now we need to see which web apps are running. And in that, we'll look at possibly log files, as well as if there's any older versions of files or artifacts that have been left behind by previous versions of that application. And we can accomplish this by using products like Nessus or Nmap. Nmap we would actually be utilizing to see what ports the applications have opened up. Next up, we'd actually want to go through and start doing some analysis of error codes. A lot of times these error codes will show us things like software versions, details of a database, or even technology components that can be utilized. Now, simply by just going and requesting invalid pages, we actually might see that the application itself supports other methods. In this case here, post and delete might be a red flag for us. The next foot that we would place in front of ourselves is simply just doing an examination of the source code from the accessible page, seeing if we can identify anything about the application being utilized, or possibly, again, any notes that somebody's left behind in the comments section. We can take this one step further by testing for recognizable types of files, extensions, and directories by requesting common file extensions such as an HTML, an ASPX, and see if there's any unusual output or any error codes that might identify the application even more. The next step that we move forward with is performing a standard TCP, ICMP, and service fingerprinting using our tools that we're aware of, like Nmap, as well as there's an application footprinting tool called AMAP. Now, if you use all these different techniques, you should have a pretty good idea of the web apps that are running so that you can continue to the next step, which is obviously looking at configuration management.